Welcome in, everybody, to the KC Sports Report. I'm your host, Michael Darcy, and today I'm joined by Michael Hebner, and we're going to break down the Week 9 matchup between the Minnesota Vikings and the Kansas City Chiefs. Chiefs Kingdom, what a win! The Chiefs just beat the Minnesota Vikings at Arrowhead Stadium by a final score of 26-23. And all I have to say is this Chiefs was dominating. I mean, the Vikings have a very good running game behind Dalvin Cook, and he wasn't able to do anything because this Chiefs defense was stuffing him at the line of scrimmage all game. But also, Harrison Butker was just straight out balling. I mean, he had 9 points and accounted for the last 9 points of the game. He kicked a 54-yard field goal to tie the game, and he kicked a 44-yard field goal to win the game for the Chiefs. So he was my Week 9 MVP. I mean, he was so impressive. But, I mean, this is just a team win. I cannot stress that enough. The offense did their job, even though at times they didn't look great. But this defense is really the story of the game. I did not expect them to pretty much shut this offense down. And I know that they've been struggling recently, both on offense and on defense. But, I mean, for a defense to rally together to beat a pretty good Vikings team, I mean, that's got to be a very good feeling. What do you think, Michael?
Yeah, no, I agree that the defense really stepped it up. There were times where we really put the pressure on them, or even there were a couple plays that we gave up yardage, but they made up for it in the end with huge stops, especially like the last 2 or 3 drives of the fourth quarter. But, I mean, the defense came together as a unit. I mean, we definitely saw the run being stopped. I mean, there were obviously a few runs that got away from us, but overall, everybody got some sort of involvement in the team. I mean, Travarius Ward had some good plays.
I mean, he was locked down today.
Yeah, Brashad Breeland kept a clean game for once. Derek Nottie was huge in stopping the run. Chris Jones made a huge impact in his first game back. Saunders had that bat down in I believe it was the fourth quarter. I mean, defense overall, I mean, it was a team effort. It wasn't like one player was having a dominant game. They all were playing very well. Obviously, it wasn't perfect. There's still some things to work on, but compared to, how they've been presented by the rest of the league, I think they did pretty good. But
yeah, the 30th ranked defense just shut down a very good offense. So that at the end of the day is going to shock a lot of people. And I think this defense is starting to come together, and that's pretty evident. But, I mean, we didn't even have Frank Clark. We didn't have Kendall Fuller. I mean, those are 2 very good players. So the fact that this Chiefs defense is very banged up and they're still able to get the job done is blowing my mind. And it just shows you how Steve Spagnuolo is coaching up these guys. Because, I mean, I'm not going to lie, I thought this Chiefs defense was severely underperforming. But recently they've really stepped it up, and I think that they've got a defensive identity now.
And to be fair to the defense, we didn't expect them to be anything great within the first half of the season. It was more of like the end of the season where we're going to be a lot more critical and like, come on, you guys really need to step it up. And they've done that. But you also have to be fair to the defense, or the Chiefs in general. I mean, I think the Vikings are a little overrated on offense. I mean, Kirk Cousins is not.
Oh, I don't think Kirk Cousins is that good, but I think that Dalvin Cook is the best rusher in the NFL.
I think Dalvin Cook is a great running back. I also think that Stephon Diggs is great. I mean, Adam Thielen was out, which obviously was problems, but we shut down Diggs, and we did a pretty good job stopping Cook. So obviously, if you put a quarterback who's getting paid way more than he should be, naturally they're not going to perform the way they want to. So I do think that their offense is a little overrated. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying they're not like
they're not the best offense in the league by any means. But right. I mean, the Chiefs were able to win this game, and it was a very flawed game. I mean, don't get me wrong, it was a good game, but I mean, Mecole Hardman fumbling the ball, Matt Moore just throwing the ball away a few different times that almost resulted in turnovers. I mean, that was not good, and the Chiefs were still somehow able to find a way to win. I mean, that just shows you that this defense is making huge steps in the right direction because, again, we got to get guys back and healthy, and once those guys come back, I mean, we could be looking at a top 15 defense, and I don't think that that's out of the question because, I mean, we saw it today. The secondary is not that bad. Travarius Ward is a lockdown cornerback right now. nobody is able to throw on him. And this linebacking core is getting better. Reggie Ragland, who sat out most of the beginning of the season, is starting to stop that run. But also, Damian Wilson is just showing that he is the best linebacker on this team. He is shut down week in and week out, and that's very important. And so I think this Chiefs defense is getting to a point where they're starting to grow together, they're starting to get confident, and I think that they're having a big chip on their shoulder, and that's resulting in these defensive dominant games, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think Wilson, I wouldn't say he's the best. I'd say he's one of the top two. It either comes down between him and Ragland or him and Hitchens. Ragland, because Ragland has been pivotal in stopping the run the last few weeks, but I wouldn't quite go as far as saying he's the best. But in terms of the secondary, the secondary has been the only solid part of the defense for the first few weeks. Obviously, it's that front seven that needed work, but you gotta, give our offense credit too, because it's, Travis Kelce had a couple big plays.
Travis Kelce had a huge catch, and at the end of the game, Tyreek Hill caught the ball and made it a 44-yard field goal attempt.
Exactly.
That was huge. Without that play, the Chiefs would have probably lost the game, because I don't think Harrison Butker is making a 60-yard field goal attempt. That's just not how I think that was going to play out. But
and Damian Williams had his
91 yards. That is incredible.
It tied Jamal Charles for the longest run in Chiefs history.
Yeah.
So, that was a huge turning point for the game. And as you mentioned earlier with the fumble by Hardman, I thought it was kind of a deja vu of the Green Bay game last week when McCoy fumbled it on our first drive, and it kind of just turned the game over to them. And you could I felt that way for the first quarter, in the second half, the third quarter. And in the fourth quarter, they came back and they held their lead, and they didn't give up, which was something I felt was different in this game than the past games. Is once we got down, it felt like we kind of gave up, or we just lost hope and didn't do anything. But they kept fighting this game, which I think is what got them the win in the end.
Well, and this Chiefs defense in the fourth quarter, it was perfect. They were able to force 3 and outs. They were able to put pressure on Kirk Cousins, and they were able to stop Dalvin Cook. So at the end of the day, this Chiefs defense stepped up when it matters. So, Chiefs Kingdom, this is a great win. And the fact that Patrick Mahomes is probably going to come back next week just shows me that this team is a very well-rounded team. Because if the Chiefs would have lost today, the season wouldn't have been over, but it wouldn't have been coasting like the rest of the way. And it's still not going to be coasting the rest of the way, but the fact that we are getting Patrick Mahomes back in the near future and this defense is starting to get a lot better, it just is much more encouraging towards this team's playoff hopes. Because I'm not going to lie, I thought that after that Green Bay loss, this Chiefs team could potentially miss the playoffs. If they would have had a stretch of bad games, or the other teams in the division would have stepped up and actually won a few games, this Chiefs team would have been in a lot of trouble. But they were able to put their head down and actually play good football. So at the end of the day, this Chiefs defense was incredible.
And I will say, I think this game was a huge eye-opener to Andy Reid, and the fact that we might be able to sit Mahomes one more week.
Yeah, it's the Titans on the road. The Titans, I believe, are 4-4 or 4-5. They're not great, so I think that Matt Moore is more than capable of getting the job done on the road.
Right, and our defense stepped up too, so it's not like we have to have that high-powered offense. If we were playing New England next week, or Green Bay, or even just some other team that is a team you want Mahomes for, I would have no problem bringing him back, but I want to keep him out as much as possible. If we can go another 1 or 2 weeks without him,
you keep him out after the bye. Keep him out until after the bye. I think the Chiefs would very much benefit from that.
I say save him at least until New England, and then or the next game that's going to be pivotal. But we've got a safe place in the division right now. Even if the Raiders win, we're still 2 games ahead.
Yeah, but that's huge. And I don't think that people really realize how important this game was. This was a must-win game that the Chiefs came out and won. So at the end of the day, this Chiefs team won because of Harrison Butker having ice water in his veins, and this Chiefs defense proving to everybody that they are a good defense. So that's our take. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe. If you guys like these videos and want to support me, go click the link in the description and go support me on my Patreon. I would more than appreciate it. Thank you to Michael Hebner for joining me in this episode. Thank you, everybody, for listening to the KC Sports Report by Michael Darcy.